Hi, I'm Michelle and welcome to my channel. Live like no one's watching. That sounds a little dramatic or like something you'd see stitched on a throw pillow. But I've realized lately that it's not just a cute phrase. It's actually a whole way of living. And for the first time in my life, I truly get to feel like I get to do it. For the first time, no one is judging what my house looks like, what I'm wearing, what I do with my time, how I'm spending my money, or even what my schedule looks like. My kids are grown and out of the house, and I'm single and retired, and I only spend time with people that I choose to be with. I'm not managing a whole house full of needs. I'm not constantly trying to be available. I'm not shaping my days around what somebody else wants from me. And that feels like exhaling after holding your breath for decades. And here's what's interesting. It's not that people suddenly stopped having opinions. People will always have opinions. It's that I'm no longer in a position where those opinions get to run my life. Even if someone has a judgment about me, I don't have to hear it. I don't have to absorb it, and I don't have to adjust my choices to prevent it. I can just live. It's hard to explain how freeing that feels until you've lived enough years constantly aware of being observed. And it's not just about the day-to-day stuff. It's bigger than that. I get to choose what I want based on how I feel and how I want to live. And it's not just about the day-to-day stuff. It's bigger than that. I get to choose where I want to live based on how I want to live. I get to decorate exactly how I want. I get to make my home feel like me and not a space designed to please a visitor or match an expectation or prove something. I can create a life that feels good from the inside, even if it doesn't translate to anyone else. And I think that's what living like no one is watching really means. It's radical authenticity. It's deciding that you're going to be the same person in private that you are in public. No more little hidden versions of yourself. No more editing your personality depending on the room that you're in. No more trying to make yourself more impressive or more accessible. I know that's not easy because so many of us were trained, especially women, to be shapeshifters, to be who other people wanted us to be. We became the experts at reading the room, keeping the peace, being fine, doing what was expected, and being the reliable one, and also anticipating everyone else's needs before they said them out loud. We were spouses, parents, employees, caretakers, partners, organizers, emotional support humans. And even when we did something for ourselves, it often still had this little layer of, how will this look? So when I say living like no one is watching, I'm talking about dropping that performer role. I'm talking about coming home to yourself, reconnecting with your core essence, that part of you that existed before you were responsible for everyone else. That part of you that had preferences and opinions and humor and weird little passions and a style that didn't need approval. Because that core you is still in there. A lot of women in midlife say that they feel invisible, and I get it. I understand what they mean. The world changes, the attention changes, you don't get looked at the same way, and people don't automatically ask your opinion in the same way. You can feel like you're fading into the background, but I want to offer a different angle. Sometimes invisibility is not a tragedy. Sometimes it's a superpower. Because if you're not looking for validation anymore, and you're not trying to be chosen, and you're not trying to be the right kind of woman in the right kind of life, invisibility can feel like a relief. It can feel like freedom and permission to stop trying so hard. Permission to stop constantly managing your image, and then you start doing things purely because you love them. You reclaim joy that has no audience, and that can feel surprisingly uncomfortable at first because we're so used to being evaluated. Even when no one is evaluating us, we evaluate ourselves. We judge ourselves. We ask, is this worth my time? Am I good at it? Should I be doing something more productive? And sometimes you have to practice letting joy be enough. And once you start living that way, you start noticing something else. No one is watching, truly. Everyone is so consumed by their own lives, their own stress, their own relationships, kids, work, drama, their own insecurities. We all walk around thinking people are paying attention to us. And the truth is, most people are thinking about themselves. That's not mean, that's just human. My kids and grandkids know that I have a YouTube channel, and they have absolutely no desire to watch my videos. And honestly, I love that because it reminds me that people are busy. They're living, they're not sitting around analyzing me. And that's why so much of our fear is unnecessary. The fear of what will people think is often fear of an audience that doesn't exist. Now, as freeing as that is, there's another piece of that I think is important, especially in midlife. As life simplifies with age, the stakes for your time and energy increase. In your 20s, you can waste it and it doesn't feel expensive. In your 30s and 40s, you're busy, but you still have this sense of endless runway ahead. In midlife, you start realizing time is not infinite, energy is not infinite, and you don't want to spend the best years drained. So living like no one is watching also means editing your environment and your habits and protecting your peace. And this can look really practical. It can look like being selective about your availability, not saying yes to everything, not answering every call, and not engaging in every conflict, and not keeping relationships alive just because you've always had them. Sometimes the biggest energy drains aren't dramatic, they're subtle. They're that friend who always complains but never changes. They're that family dynamic that leaves you exhausted for 3 days after a visit. They're those low-grade conflicts that keep you hooked. Those relationships where you leave feeling like you have to recover. And living like no one's watching means you stop maintaining relationships for appearance. You stop saying, well, I should, and you start asking, but do I want to? Midlife can be the time where you feel restless or sad or uncertain or like you're in between chapters. And sometimes you don't know what to do with that feeling. So I've been thinking about prioritizing self-care, real self-care, not spa day self-care, although I love that too. I mean boring self-care that actually changes your life. Hydration, movement, quality rest, feeding yourself real food, taking a walk, and going to bed when you're tired. Giving your nervous system a break. And also limiting negative input. Because if you start your day with negative news and end your day with social media comparison, it's going to shape your mindset, whether you like it or not. I'm not saying ignore reality. I'm saying don't marinate in negativity. Don't let your brain become a dumping ground for everyone else's fear and outrage. Protect your mind and focus on peace. I like the idea of a midlife atrium. I picture an atrium as this open, airy space in the center of a building. Light comes in, you can breathe, there's room, and I think midlife can be that. A central open space where you get to reimagine the second half of your life, where you don't have to rebuild everything from scratch, but you get to redesign. And you don't have to do it through one giant life blow up. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to move to a different state. You don't have to do something dramatic to prove that you're alive. You can do small things. You can introduce novelty. You can take a class, start a hobby, go to a museum, or try a new coffee shop across town. You could even just rearrange your furniture or change your morning routine. You could add one thing that makes life feel fresh again, because vitality isn't always about big change. Sometimes it's about the small things. And one practice that has helped me a lot is visualizing my dream day. Not my dream life, not my 5-year plan, but my dream day. Like, how do I want it to feel? Do I want to feel calm, creative, or connected? And then instead of obsessing over achievements, you start building your days around these feelings. You make decisions that support that version of you. You stop outsourcing your happiness to some future milestone, because living like no one is watching means you stop living for the highlight reel. You start living for your actual life. And if you're in midlife and you feel that constant pressure, like you're being watched, judged, evaluated, compared, try living like no one's watching. Try making one choice this week that's just for you. Something small, something quiet, and something that feels like relief. Wear the thing you love, even if it's not trendy. Rearrange your space the way you want. Try going somewhere alone and order what you want. Spend your time in a way that makes you feel like yourself again. Because you don't need permission and you don't need to wait until you feel confident. Sometimes confidence comes after you start living differently. It shows up when you prove to yourself little by little that you can trust your own taste and your own choices. You get one life, and if you're going to be watched by anyone, let it be you. Let your life be something you enjoy witnessing from the inside. Thank you so much for watching.